Carl Jung once warned that the most dangerous discovery he ever made was not about dreams, not about archetypes, not even about the collective unconscious. It was about women, a rare kind of women. Women who carried inside them a form of intelligence so advanced, so penetrating, that it could either elevate humanity or destroy them completely. He called it a differentiated spiritual intelligence, and he feared it because he realized what it does to the one who carries it. Society misunderstands it. Families exile it. These women see too much, too deeply, too clearly, and the world has never been kind to those who hold a mirror up to its illusions. Imagine walking into a room and instantly feeling the weight of grief no one speaks about. Imagine hearing the surface of someone's words, but seeing the shadow they desperately hide beneath them. Imagine dreaming symbols that become reality days later. To you, this isn't imagination. It's the structure of your everyday life. Jung understood something that still terrifies psychology today. That there are human beings, especially women, whose perception operates on a different frequency. They don't just sense moods, they decode the invisible architecture of existence itself. They see the patterns that keep everyone else unconscious. They translate the language of the soul, while others only chase appearances. But here lies the danger. Because when you see what others refuse to see, you don't just become insightful, you become a threat. Jung wrote that these women often end up persecuted, isolated, even spiritually annihilated, not because they are delusional, but because they are too far ahead of what the collective mind is ready to accept. And so the gift turns toxic, the mirror becomes unbearable, and the woman who was born to guide becomes the woman society crucifies. Today we will explore 6 dangerous signs that reveal if you or someone you love belongs to this rare psychological type. These are not surface traits like sensitivity or intuition. They are deeper, sharper, unmistakable markers of a consciousness that evolved beyond ordinary human awareness. Each sign holds both a warning and a promise. A warning of the isolation, the attacks, the spiritual burden that come with it. And a promise because if you can integrate this gift, it becomes not your curse, but your path. Stay with me, because if even one of these signs feels familiar, then what Jung once called his most dangerous discovery may in fact be the story of your life. Jung described a patient in a private letter as the woman who walks in 2 worlds. She was not insane, she was not hallucinating, and yet her very presence unsettled everyone around her. When she entered a room, conversations shifted. Jokes that seemed harmless suddenly died on people's lips, as if they had been caught pretending. She never said a word, but others felt exposed, like she could see the fracture between what they showed and what they hid. Her nights were filled with dreams that unfolded like sacred theater. In one, she dreamt of a black bird shattering a church window. 3 weeks later, lightning struck the steeple of the local parish, splitting the stained glass in the exact shape she had drawn in her journal. Jung documented it not as coincidence, but as evidence of a perception untethered from time. She confessed to him, "I know things I don't want to know. I sense when someone is about to betray a friend. I feel the grief of mothers before the letter arrives. I can't switch it off." And here is where the recognition begins, because many women listening right now will feel a strange shiver. Perhaps you too have felt it. That moment when you suddenly know someone is lying without proof. That time you dreamt of water flooding a street, and days later the pipes burst in your own apartment. That uncanny sense that your body reacts to truths no one dares speak aloud. These are not superstitions. They are signs of a differentiated spiritual intelligence. The very kind, Jung said, could either transform or destroy. But the story grows darker because the woman he treated did not feel gifted. She felt cursed. Neighbors whispered that she carried an evil eye. Friends grew uneasy and pulled away. Men who once desired her became afraid of her silence, as if she could read what they had done in secret, and so she withdrew. She lived at the edge of her town, walking the forests at dawn, speaking only to her notebooks. Yet, when Jung examined her records, he found something extraordinary. Pages filled with archetypal images, symbols of death and rebirth, of serpents and towers, of floods and fire, images identical to those described by mystics across centuries. She had never read those texts, and yet they appeared unbidden in her inner world. Jung wrote in his notes, "She does not suffer from pathology. She suffers from perception beyond her epoch." And maybe this is the part that will leave you unsettled, because how many times have you dimmed yourself convinced you were too much? How many times have you buried the knowledge that came in dreams because you feared the look in others' eyes? How many times have you wondered if your sensitivity was weakness, when in truth it was an intelligence the world is not ready to name? This woman was only one of dozens Jung encountered, but she became the blueprint for what he would later call the most dangerous psychological type, the spiritually intelligent woman. And in the next section, we will uncover the 6 dangerous signs that reveal whether you carry the same burden and the same promise. Carl Jung was precise in his language. He refused to call these women mystics, dreamers, or hysterics, as many of his colleagues tried to dismiss them. He chose something colder, more clinical, differentiated, spiritual intelligence, a phrase that sounds scientific but hides something far more unsettling. Jung wrote that this rare type of woman cannot be recognized by her appearance or her personality. She is recognized by her symptoms of perception, dangerous markers that reveal she is carrying more than ordinary consciousness can hold. Here are the 6. Sign 1. You read people the way others read books. When someone enters your life, you don't just notice their smile or their words. You feel the fracture in their chest, the hunger behind their charm, the grief they never admitted. And the unsettling part, you're usually right. Their stories unravel weeks later, but you already knew. Jung called this differentiated feeling function a capacity to decode souls as if they were open pages. It is dangerous because it leaves you with no illusions, and illusions are what most relationships are built on. Sign 2. Your dreams refuse to stay asleep. For most, dreams are fragments that fade with the morning light. For you, they are blueprints. You dream of symbols that later walk into your waking life. You dream of fires before they burn. You dream of faces before you meet them. Jung said, such women lived in 2 temporalities at once. Their psyche did not respect the border between night and day. The danger? People call you crazy until your dreams come true. Then they call you cursed. Sign 3. Silence exposes you. You don't need to speak for people to react. Your presence alone unsettles. Jokes fall flat around you. Secrets leak without confession. Those who carry guilt squirm in your company, as if your eyes can see what they locked away. Jung called this therapeutic presence. But for the one who carries it, it is often unbearable. Because being a mirror for other people's shadows makes you their enemy before you even open your mouth. Sign 4. Your body reacts to the world before the world reacts to you. Headaches arrive hours before the tragedy hits the news. Your heart races the day a war begins. Sleep paralysis pins you the night before an earthquake. Science calls it sensitivity. Jung called it a psychic apparatus tuned to collective currents. The danger: you suffer the weight of disasters you didn't cause, as if your body has become a weather instrument for humanity's storms. Sign 5. You turn pain into transformation. What breaks others does not stop at breaking you, it reshapes you. Betrayal, grief, exile. Each wound alchemizes inside you into a kind of wisdom you never asked for. Jung wrote that these women embody the purest form of the wounded healer. But the danger is this: the world doesn't see your transformation. They only see your wounds and project their own onto you. Sin 6. Life bends toward you in strange patterns. You don't chase synchronicity, it chases you. The right book falls into your hands at the exact hour you need it. Strangers arrive, speaking the sentence you secretly prayed for. Jobs, meetings, encounters, all lined up with eerie precision. Jung said, "Some women live as magnets of meaning, but what feels like guidance to you feels like threat to others. Because the more aligned you become, the more disruptive you are to those addicted to chaos." If even one of these signs resonates, Jung would tell you this: you are not imagining it. You are not too much. You are carrying a faculty of consciousness that most of the world cannot yet integrate. Which is why you feel dangerous. Which is why others call you unbearable. And which is why this path left unconscious can either destroy you through isolation or transform you into exactly what humanity secretly longs for. What did he mean? That while most people perceive reality on one level, logic, sensation, emotion, this rare type processes several layers at once. They hear your words and the tremor beneath them. They see your smile and the silence buried under it. They dream symbols that later step out of sleep and into daylight. Their consciousness runs like two operating systems at once: the material and the symbolic. Modern neuroscience, without intending to, has hinted at the same. Some studies show that certain people's nervous systems react milliseconds before an event actually happens, as if perception outruns time itself. Jung would have called this evidence of a mind tuned to frequencies beyond the ordinary human range. And here is where recognition begins. A woman avoids a road for no reason and later hears about the accident that happened there. Another wakes with dread on the exact morning her father falls ill miles away. Another feels her chest tighten every time her partner lies, though he never confesses it. These are not lucky guesses. They are traces of a deeper faculty, the ability to read the invisible architecture of reality. But Jung warned, the danger is not in the perception itself. The danger is in the isolation it creates. Because when you speak what others desperately hide, they don't thank you. They laugh, they withdraw, they call you too dramatic, too intense. Jung named this dynamic, spiritual shadow projection, the unconscious attack on the one who sees too clearly. And so the spiritually intelligent woman becomes the scapegoat. Not because she is wrong, but because she is an unbearable mirror. There is another, rarer sign that few admit out loud. The body itself becomes a barometer of collective weather. Migraines hours before news of war breaks. Sleep paralysis the night before an earthquake. Tremors that appear not from stress, but as if her body is registering invisible quakes in the psyche of the collective. To carry this is to feel floods before the river rises, to dream images that later erupt in your community, to grieve strangers' pain as if it were your own. In Jung's notes, these experiences belong to what he called autonomous spiritual complexes, structures in the psyche that process spiritual information independently of conscious will. He described them as an inherited spiritual technology, refined through generations of trauma and mystical pressure. And here is the unsettling truth. If you recognize yourself in this description, you are not broken. You are not exaggerating. You are carrying a form of perception the collective does not yet have a language for. That is why Jung called it dangerous, because such perception does not fit. It disrupts the silent agreements that keep society asleep, the agreements to ignore, to pretend, to stay blind. But what happens when you can no longer stay blind? When your very presence shatters others' illusions? This is where the 6 dangerous signs emerge. And once you hear them, you may realize that what you thought was your weakness, your curse, was in fact the unmistakable marker of a rare spiritual intelligence Jung believed could change humanity itself. Jung insisted, the gift itself is not the danger. The danger is what happens when it remains unintegrated. He identified 3 danger. 1. You destabilize what others depend on. The moment you speak the truth others avoid, you disrupt entire families, friendships, even spiritual groups. You don't intend to, but illusions collapse in your presence. Jung wrote that authentic perception threatens the collective agreements ordinary life is built on, and so communities protect themselves the only way they know how, by pushing you out, danger, to become an island. Your greatest strength turns into exile, because what you see cannot be unseen, and what others deny cannot be shared. Slowly you stop speaking, you stop trusting. You walk through the world with a secret no one wants to hear. Jung called this the curse of spiritual isolation, to live surrounded by people, yet cut off from them entirely. Danger 3. You lose yourself in others' shadows, the most dangerous of all. When you absorb so much of the collective, you no longer know where you end and the world begins. Their projections drown out your voice. Their pain erases your identity. Jung warned that this leads to spiritual annihilation, not death of the body, but death of the soul's distinct shape. This is why Jung called these women the most endangered type, because unless the gift is integrated, but if it is integrated, it becomes exactly what the world needs most. In the final part, we'll uncover how Jung taught these women to transform their dangerous perception into conscious spiritual power. And here is where I want to pause and turn to you. If you carry even fragments of these dangers, if you've lived the exile, the projection, the erosion of your own voice, tell me in the comments. Would you want me to go deeper into each of these dangers in a separate video? Because Jung left more warnings than I can cover here. And if enough of you ask, I'll devote an entire essay to the hidden costs of carrying this gift. Jung never left these women in despair. He believed that what feels like a curse can be transformed into the very medicine humanity needs. But it requires a conscious path, a way to carry the gift without being consumed by it. He called it the process of spiritual individuation. And though his notes were complex, the essence can be held in 3 steps. Step 1, discernment. Learn to separate what is truly yours from what you've absorbed. The grief you carry, does it belong to you or to the collective? The dream you dreamt, Does it speak your truth or someone else's? Jung taught that without this daily act of discernment, spiritual intelligence dissolves into overwhelm. With it, clarity returns. Step 2. Shadow integration. The reason you see so clearly in others is because the same patterns live in you. The anger, the pride, the need to escape. Yes, they are yours too. And only when you face them in yourself can you see others without judgment. Integration turns your gaze from a curse into a gift. Step 3. Conscious service. Your perception is not meant to be hidden nor to drown you. It is meant to serve. But service does not mean sacrifice. Jung taught women to create containers for others, crisis to hold space, to guide without losing themselves. This is how the mirror becomes medicine, not martyrdom. And this is the transformation. The same woman who once felt cursed by her sight learns to live not less deeply, but more wisely. Not to see less, but to engage what she sees with strength. Her gift remains, but her relationship to it changes. And with that change, what was once unbearable becomes sacred. So hear this, your gift is not your burden. Your unconscious relationship to it is your burden. Once you integrate it, you become exactly what Jung believed was most needed. A bridge between what is true and what is possible, between what humanity fears and what it secretly longs for. If you felt something stir in you while listening, if you recognized even one of the 6 signs, write it in the comments. Tell us which part spoke to you, because your words will not only name your own truth, they will give courage to others who carry the same gift in silence. And if you want this message to reach more women like you, like this video, share it, subscribe. It is not just a gesture. It is how this knowledge survives, how this lineage continues, how this healing spreads. Because none of us were meant to walk this path alone. Jung once wrote, "The patient learned not to see less, but to see more wisely." May that be true of you. May your perception no longer isolate you, but guide you. And may this gift, dangerous, yes, but sacred, become the way you discover your place in the unfolding story of human consciousness.